All right, let's jump in to the 2025 Auburn Tigers, who are off of a 5-7 straight up, 6-6 against the spread season. And before we delve into this deep dive into the Auburn Tigers, are you over Brady Cook yet?
Well, I just want Brady Cook and his BFF, Barry Bonds, to find some place, maybe go to the Greenbrier, and they can figure out all the stuff they did and be collectively happy with themselves. Because, all right, this is the last time I'm gonna talk about Brady Cook.
No,
But
it's not. No, it's not. No, it is not.
well,
It's not. Go ahead.
maybe not, but probably going to be. Probably going to be. But so many winnable games that were lost last year, and I think that, in truth, as a sports guy, first and foremost, even beyond, because I love sports way before I loved Auburn. That's the biggest question that I have about Hugh Freeze is, let's not talk about quarterbacks. Let's talk about, are you ready to deliver in moments? Can you win big games? Because I don't know if Hugh Freeze wins big games.
1-3 in one possession games last year. Going back to the year before, it looks like 02, 03, 2-6 overall in one possession games at Auburn, Mr. Freeze.
And one of them was the miracle in overtime against Texas A&M, which was mind-blowing, that there's no credit, no blame. There just was a whole bunch of dudes making amazing plays.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so let's go with some gambling numbers to start off with Auburn. 60-1 to win the CFP at FanDuel.
No
26.
thanks.
No, thanks. 26-1 to win the SEC.
No thanks.
-1.5 at a -115 price, or -125 on the money line at Baylor in the season opener.
Absolutely.
Jackson Arnold 60-1 to win the Heisman.
Woo-hoo.
No.
I mean, can I put well, I've already cursed, and I apologize to Max and Blake back there in the editing room. And that's not only a no, but that's a heck no.
Cam Coleman 250-1.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you think Auburn's gonna have a special year, isolate a wide receiver, because Auburn's wide receiver room is maybe the best in the country.
Yeah.
Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Malcolm Simmons. I mean, those are three dudes. This has the chance to be a special season for Auburn, or it has a chance to be that year. And a lot of us Auburn fans and Florida fans in the post-Urban Meyer time will realize this, where you look up and you've got like five dudes introducing themselves on Sunday night NFL football, and you're going, how are we not better if we've got these many dudes playing in the NFL?
Right. All right. FanDuel's season win total for Auburn is 7.5, shaded to the over -180. The under is +146. However, and I brought this up last week with Florida, how I would have rather have a number of 7, and I think you even said, or 7.5 at plus money. So Circa has released its win totals, and they have different numbers. So last week, Jay and I were liking Florida over 6.5, but not necessarily liking the price that much. Well, Circa's got Florida at 7.5, shaded the under -135. The over is +115. So you do get a little plus money on over 7.5. And we both if you haven't watched, go back and watch, or you can listen to it in pod form, or it's on the Florida part is on the YouTube channel, Southeastern 16's YouTube channel, obviously. Um, and at Circa, Auburn's win total is 8, not 7.5. It's shaded to the over at a minus 125 price. The under is plus 105. Okay, so Auburn, they have the number 6 overall recruiting class in the country per 247 Sports, and they have the number 8 transfer specific um, class with 19 transfers. 6 of them are 4-star, and of the freshmen, 21 enrolled early. Before we start, let me just run through who the 6 4-star transfers are for Auburn. Okay, so you've got Eric Singleton, Georgia Tech wide receiver in 2023, 48 catches, 714 yards, 6 touchdowns. Last year for the Yellow Jackets, 56 catches, 754 yards, and 3 touchdowns. All right. We also have Horatio Fields, wide receiver from Wake Forest. He had 39 catches, 463 yards, and 4 touchdowns last year. We also have Mason Murphy, offensive tackle, USC. And we have Rayon Strader, a DB at Maryland. And he had, in 23, he had 57 tackles, 2 TFLs, 1 interception, 13 passes broken up. Last year at Maryland, 53 tackles, 2 INTs, 18 passes broken up. So plug him in as just starting corner. And Jackson Arnold, another 4-star. And then there's also the Miami of Ohio. I'm sorry. That was Rayon Strader, is the Miami of Ohio DB who I just gave you the stats for. And he was first team All MAC last year. And in 23, he was a national freshman All American. And I think I skipped the other offensive tackle. Let's see. Yeah, Xavier Chaplin Vatek, 6'7", 323. So for the portal, you add wide receiver depth, you get your 2 starting offensive tackles, you get a starting corner. So nice work by Freeze. And there's a lot of other guys from Power
Well,
programs.
and he's your quarterback.
Oh, yeah, and your starting quarterback. Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think of Jackson Arnold as I'm about to pull up his stats from last year?
I think Jackson Arnold carries more weight than any first-time starter at his school than just about anybody in the country.
Yeah.
Because Hugh Freeze's job depends on this year. This team is growing in popularity among the pundits. I mean, Auburn is shooting up a whole lot of the preseason rankings. And yeah, they're meaningless in May. Hell, they're meaningless in September. But with those rankings come expectations among the fan base. And after the last couple of years of frustration, if Hugh Freeze is not competing to get to Atlanta, Auburn may be in that terrible place of having to look to find somebody else.
Yeah, but I think they are going to be competing though, and we'll get to the schedule.
And this is unlike the last couple of years. Buckets is a schedule favorable.
Yeah. So last year Jackson, or let's backtrack. 2023, he was an incoming 5-star true freshman at Oklahoma, He didn't play much. He played in the bowl game. His stats were not that impressive in the bowl game. So last year, he goes in the year as the starter. He completes 154 of 246 passes, 62.6%, 1,421 yards, 12-3 TDI and T ratio, and he had 444 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 3.0 yards per carry average. I'm trying. He just got. Did he get yanked? Did they name the other kid the starter before the Auburn game?
Yes.
That's okay. That's what I thought I remembered. And it wasn't because of an injury, right? He just got yanked, right?
I don't think so. I think he turned it over a fair amount, and
Oh,
then
in the
they
Tennessee game. That's what it was.
yep,
Yeah.
and then they gave the ball to the freshman, and I mean, you start collecting wins, especially when you're Brent Venables and you're also got your head on a swivel about the guillotine, about getting axed, and you just try to ride the hot hand. So,
Yep. Well, he eventually got the job back because the other kid got hurt at LSU regular season finale. 14 of 21, 110 yards. Sounds like check down Charlie. But he did run for 75 yards on 17 attempts.
yeah,
But
but
anyway,
by that time, Oklahoma's top 9 wide receivers were broken.
yeah, yeah. And they lost, and in fairness, they lost a lot of them in September as well when he was still the starter. So they had wide receiver injuries galore. He's got a lot better wide receivers this year. That is for sure. With I mentioned Horatio Fields, Eric Singleton, Cam Coleman. In fact, I wrote down Cam's stats from last year, and I'm trying to find them. Where in the world are they? Oh, here we are. 37 catches, 598 yards, 8 touchdowns, and then the other freshman. Malcolm Simmons, 40 catches, 451 yards, 3 touchdowns. And here's the most important thing about Auburn. And, well, you lose Jarquez Hunter, and I'll let you tell us about the running back room. But 5 starting offensive linemen back, that's huge.
Well, 5 offensive linemen back, and that's not counting the transfer tackles you talked about.
Right. Correct.
I mean, I'm curious to see, and I really think it's going to be a whole lot to the conversation about the running back room. I think it's going to be a whole lot by committee because you got a whole lot of guys who I think are dependable, but I'm curious to see if any of the trio of Damari Alston, Jeremiah Cobb, or Darrell Robinson are going to be good enough to keep the record-setting freshman Alvin Henderson off the field.
And Robinson is a transfer from UConn who ran for 731 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry average for the Huskies last year. Also had 14 catches for 75 yards. Yeah, so it's going to be a running back committee with not a whole lot of, not a ton of experience, but you can be, that can be the case at running back.
No, 100%, especially with the offense they run. I mean,
I don't ever spend a whole lot of time worried about Auburn's running backs in general. It's just a general rule of thumb. I don't really spend a whole lot of time worrying about Auburn's running backs. You know what I mean?
When you talk, when teams play with pace, which is where Hugh Freeze is best, you put a guy on the field and he gets a series, and then the next guy gets a series, and you go accordingly. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the Auburn running backs either, because the central conversation about everything is whether you're a Hugh Freeze supporter, a detractor, and you're looking for a betting angle, you have to ask yourself this. Is Jackson Arnold going to be the guy? Because he's got a ton of pieces around him right now.
And if he's not, there's Deuce Knight. Let's see, Deuce Knight was the number 6 quarterback in the country high 4-star, number 56 overall prospect, according to the 247 Sports Composite. 6'4.5", 206. What what did you get your eyes on him at all during spring? Did y'all have a spring game? A scrimmage, more like.
I think they had one of those where it was offense versus defense, and it was like you get 2 points for a sack, and
Okay.
yeah, I mean it's one of those. Don't even get me started. I got a whole different tangent on that. But
What have you heard and read about the early impressions of Deuce Knight since he got to the Plains?
from the folks I know down there, he's got every bit of skill that you would want, and he's not ready.
Just getting the playbook and all that stuff, and he's not
Well,
gonna.
but think about a guy who is a borderline 5-star quarterback at any high school. And then you've got to go to this, and the playbook grows exponentially. And I mean that transition is impossible for just about everybody.
Mentally, I mean, he's there physically, but just he's got to get there mentally, and it takes time. So, do you think is he going to be like the third string, or who do you got behind him? That guy that started a game or two last year, he transferred, didn't he? And
yes, the entire quarterback room transferred.
Hank Brown is who I was thinking about.
Ashton Daniels is a transfer senior from Stanford.
Oh yeah, he started some games at Stanford.
Yep, who's a dual threat guy. If Deuce Knight sees the field early, it's because all of the Auburn NIL free agent acquisitions have failed mightily.
Gotcha. All right. I wanted to mention the prize of the recruiting class outside of Knight and outside of the transfers. 5-star D lineman Malik Autry, 6'5.5", 330, number 25 overall prospect in the country. All right. We ready to get into the schedule?
Let's go.
Let's do it. All right. We've got Auburn at Baylor. Baylor has Sawyer Robertson as its quarterback, and he was a 4-star out of Texas that initially committed to Mike Leach in Mississippi State, but eventually transferred after Leach's tragic passing. But he's making, as we're starting to see a lot of these QB rankings come out, Sawyer Robertson's in the top 10 of most of them. And this will not be an easy game. The line being 1.5 certainly indicates that. Dave Aranda, similarly to Hugh Freeze, is on a bit of a hot seat. But I'm giving this one to Auburn.
I am too. And we'll walk through this. And if you followed my advice on the team total on Auburn, you may want to be in a position to hedge Baylor because of the dynamics of this being a swing game. Because not to tip our hand here, I am really high on Auburn. I think Auburn get 10 wins.
I mean, there are a lot of games that look very, very winnable.
Very winnable, very location. The non-conference, if Baylor's your toughest non-conference game at home, then you're probably expecting 4. And
wait. The game's at Baylor. Did you say at home?
I'm sorry, you're right. It is at Baylor. But that doesn't bother me as much for a whole bunch of kids who have played in 90,000 seat stadiums, especially week 1, when you're coming out frothed.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, well, I've already tipped my hand. I'm high on Auburn's over.
Yep.
But if we're going to play the game here, if you put money and are calculating odds on Auburn's over, then the smart gambler figures out, especially getting closer to kickoff, you're going to get better than 1.5. You're going to get Baylor plus whatever, and then you kind of hedge, don't you think?
Possibly. I mean, that is definitely going to be a big swing game in the equation. It would depend on how much the line would move up, but I your point's taken. I think this line will be at least 3 Auburn's way.
Well, and the reason I
more.
say swing game is because of the emotional uncertainty about what game one could be for what a lot of us think could be a springboard for Auburn. But you lose game one in the game in which you're favored, and the whispers start happening, and are they talking about, is Jackson Arnold the guy? I mean, this is it. It's not going to be the highest profile week one game. It may be among the most important week one game.
Yeah, for Freeze, for Aranda, for Jackson Arnold, etc. You do give the quarterback advantage to Baylor in that game, but I do like Auburn. So then they're going to beat Ball State and South Alabama at home in weeks 2 and 3. But then you've got back-to-back road assignments at Oklahoma and at Texas A&M. And I'm going to say that's going to be a split as Jackson Arnold returns to Norman on September 20th. So I've got Auburn 4-1 after splitting those two. What say you on that 2-game?
I completely agree, and I think it is. And I stole this theory from you. I love the idea of saying, okay, I don't necessarily know which one they're going to win, but I love the 2 road games back to back, and we split.
Yeah. And then, now this is a huge scheduling deal. It sets up beautifully for Auburn. They get 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia coming to Jordan-Hare, and Georgia does not have 2 weeks to prepare. In fact, 2 weeks prior, the same weekend that Auburn is at A&M, Georgia is hosting Alabama in a game that it has 2 weeks to prepare for, as does Alabama. And then then Georgia hosts Kentucky while Auburn is sitting in the air conditioning in comfy clothes watching Georgia and Kentucky play, and they are resting and getting healthy. And I like Auburn's chances a lot. They should have beat them 2 years ago when Auburn was a lot less talented and Georgia had a better team and a better quarterback situation. So anyway, I got Auburn beating Georgia. What about you?
I agree, actually. And I am excited when – couple things. Not only does Hugh Freeze need to deliver 8+ wins this year, he's going to have to find a game against one of the rivals that Auburn has that have been punching Auburn in the face for the better part of the last decade. And that means Alabama and Georgia. And to this end, not only did you talk about the schedule, this is what feels like one of, at least in the last half decade, Kirby Smart's more unproven team. And if you're going to bet this game, when the lines come out, and I don't know if you've already seen the Game of the Year lines because Auburn doesn't really deserve to be in the Game of the Year line yet. But as soon as you see Auburn, there's a real chance you need to get on that now because you're going to get plus points. And if you and I are correct, that game's going to be the most points you're going to get in the Georgia-Auburn game is going to be – now, if you think Georgia's going to win, wait until kickoff. But if you like Auburn, like Brian and I do, then you need to look at it pretty doggone early because that game may start at 7. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot closer to less than a field goal come October 11th.
Yeah. And we should be getting some college football games of the year really soon. The only one I've seen is the Michigan-Ohio State line that FanDuel has. I haven't seen any other ones outside of week 1 games. All right, so now if you beat Georgia, then you got a vintage letdown spot, but at least it's at home to Missouri, and at least you've got the revenge angle. I'm not too sure about Missouri's quarterback situation, although I'm not saying I trust Jackson Arnold either. And he's the big wild card on all this. I love Auburn's roster. I'm not sure on Jackson Arnold. But anyway, I'm going to give Auburn the game to Missouri at home, although Missouri's got a lot of I think they've got 9 starters back on defense. But the revenge angle, I'm going to give that one to Auburn, and that would make them, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to make them 6-1 heading to Arkansas. What about you on the Missouri game?
Completely agree about Missouri because Brady Cook has not had 17 horse tranquilizers shot into his buttocks.
Right. Now, at Arkansas, that one's going to be a little dangerous. Let's see. Oh, that's revenge game. They won at Auburn last year, right? What happened to my schedule?
Well, one of the things, and I don't want to cut you off because I know you're going to hit us with some numbers, but one of the things here is, and it adds into at least a little bit of a hedge, because on paper, I would probably go Arkansas at Arkansas. But we don't know what the coaching situation is going to be there for Arkansas. We'll talk about it later in the year. That could be a complete a team in turmoil.
Right. Talon Green balled out on the Plains last year. I'm going to give that one to Arkansas. You giving it to Auburn?
I'm giving that a coin flip. Okay. And I don't think the next 2 are coin flips. But if we're talking about over-unders, I think it's important to talk about coin flips. Because if that's – I mean, all right, what about this? If Georgia – and they're not in consecutive weeks, but if Georgia at Auburn and Auburn at Arkansas, if you take a split there, I'm happy.
Or you could take – well, I'll get to it. All right, so I got Auburn beating Kentucky the next week. So let's see. I've got Auburn at 5-1, 6-1, 6-2, 7-2 with a win over Kentucky. Then can Hugh Freeze exercise his Diego Pavia demons in Nashville? I say no.
I say yes.
I say no.
Complete and total yes.
I say no. Diego Pavia is Hugh Freeze's daddy forever.
Nope. And I'll lay whatever number they put down. That game's going to be 49-6, and I'll go you a step further. It's going to be 70% Auburn fans in the stands.
Well, that's you got that part.
Hey, right. For God's sakes, Diego Pavia may have already moved into a retirement home. I mean, the guy's 72 years old.
Oh, man. And he has beaten Hugh Freeze by double digits 3 times. All right, so I got Auburn 7-3. They beat Mercer to go 8-3, and I've got them beating Alabama to go 9-3. But let me be clear here. If Jackson Arnold isn't good, then this over bet could just go in the trash can. I'm just assuming he's going to be pretty good. He doesn't have to be great. He doesn't have to be great. He's got weapons all around him. He's got a really good O-line. We'll see on the running backs, but look, just put an Auburn uniform on a running back, and he's going to be pretty doggone good. So, I'm going to say 9-3, and I'm going to say the over. But I want to be specific here, like because of the Jackson Arnold factor. I'm not like saying this is a big bet for me. Like 1 unit bet for me. Auburn over 8. You as well, right?
Well, have you seen it? You've seen it 7.5 with Big Juice, right?
Right. Minus 180.
Well, I'm going over 7.5, and I'm going multiple units, and because this is a betting conversation more than a football conversation, at least to start. Because if Jackson Arnold craps his pants, which may happen, I mean, I don't know. Then you got to look around and start fading Auburn in almost every game you're going to play to recoup whatever you're betting on the future. But right. Here's the other part. Hugh Freeze is desperate. And this is a doable schedule. This is a roster that is NFL laden, and it is also a position in a wide open SEC. Have you started to notice that all the guys doing the way too early preseason rankings are now dropping Auburn in that 10 to 15 to 18 range?
Yeah, understandably so. And look, if Jackson Arnold lives up to his 5-star hype, they could very well be a top 10 team. But that's a big if for me. But again, like we noted earlier, now he did have all those wide receivers hurt early in the year when he struggled, and that Tennessee defense was pretty good. I think the big head scratcher was when they only beat Houston 16-12, though. That was head scratcher, talking about OU back in September of last year. All right. Any other players you want to mention? I know Keldrick Falk is probably going to be preseason All SEC, 11 TFLs, 7 sacks last year. And your young freshman DBs were good last year, Jay Crawford and Caleb Harris. Any other Auburn leftovers before we talk a little NBA and get on out of here?
Well, Auburn's defensive line is going to be really, really, really good. You mentioned Falk. There are a lot of mock drafts who have a whole lot of Auburn defenders in the first 2 rounds. And I mean, Auburn's always going to recruit well, but the conversation about whether having star power equates to winning power is going to be on Hugh Freeze. I mean, in the end of the day, it's completely on Hugh Freeze.
And that 2-6 mark in 1 possession games has got to get a lot better, because he's going to have a lot of 1 possession games this year. All righty. So there's Auburn. We both like the over. That's 2 votes for the over in our Florida and Auburn previews. Make sure you go back and watch the Florida preview from last week. It's on podcast form, Southeastern 16's YouTube channel as well.